Anyway, I was talking with Kevin Hearne, our guest here up in the green room, and he's got his thing down, so I'm throwing my notes away, and he's going to basically be the one to entertain you by himself up here, but I just wanted to give him a proper introduction, since it's his first year here in Salt Lake City, so thanks for that. So glad to have you. Of course, the author of the Iron Druid series, which I finally just started. And Heir to the Jedi. You're playing around in the Star Wars universe now. That's gotta feel pretty darn neato. But I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions to get things rolling. Just the basic stuff, like what inspired you to become a writer? And in turn, when you became one, what are the realities that a lot of people don't realize who want to be writers?
Okay, I was inspired by Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest when I read it in college. And we had an unreliable narrator in Chief Brumden, and what he did with that first person point of view and how the language changes to reflect Chief's improving mental state, at the influence of McMurphy. I thought that was just remarkable, because the early chapters, Chief is having these incredible trips that are just out there. But then he slowly improves throughout the book, and that's reflected not only, in his behavior, but also the actual language improves. And I thought, man, it's so masterful, and I want to do that. And so that's kind of what made me want to be a writer. And then I wrote for a very long time, very badly. And but eventually, Hounded was, while my first published novel, it was actually my third novel that I completed. And so my first two books that I completed were really, really bad. And will never ever be published. But I had to write those in order to get to Hounded. I had to, just like you got to fall down on your bicycle when you're learning how to ride. You have to make the mistakes. And most writers, unless they are sort of, turbo geniuses, do not publish their first books. They're training books for them, but they learn a lot. And the primary lesson you learn is, hey, I can finish a novel. And because it's huge, because it gives you the confidence that you can write another one and do it better. And that's what basically happened. So Hounded was my third book, but the first one that got published, and then hopefully the books continue to get better from there. And that was a lot of fun. It was a long journey to get published, but it wouldn't have happened if I had just kind of quit and stopped after the first book. You got to keep going, keep trying.
Do you write on a schedule?
Not anymore. I used to. Because I had the day job, I was teaching high school English and delivering pizza for Pizza Hut, and I was also like an announcer at football games, the high school football games. So I was doing those three jobs, and then I was also trying to write. And it eventually, what I was writing at the time was, those first couple of books that didn't get published. But I would still write, even after Hearne came out and so on. What I was doing is writing just a couple of nights after dinner, or a couple of hours, after dinner. And then, during the school breaks, summer and Christmas break and all that good stuff. So that's how I got those books done. The first 4 books were all written while I was teaching full-time. So, and then after that, I was able to work at just writing, and now the schedule is not really set, and I often don't wear pants.
Let me ask you this before, because I'm sure people have a lot of questions. You mentioned what brought you to wanting to be an author was Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of talking about movies, and I meet people who watch the same movie 200 times who have never seen something, and it's usually like Dawn of the Dead or something like that, and they've never seen Lawrence of Arabia, or the number of Star Wars fans I know that have never seen David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia is alarming, because that movie is an incredible influence on Star Wars. So in that regard, I ask you, as a writer of fantasy and genre fiction, how important would you say it is to really know the classics and to have a wider range in your reading and watching and listening to help?
Well, it's been important for me because I wind up alluding to so many different things in my books, and then, you know, especially in terms of mythology, I knew a whole bunch of that stuff going in, you know, because I was teaching it. So, plus I was geeking out about a lot of stuff in college as well. T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland is like one of my favorites, and so I had to figure out a way to get all the Grail Legend stuff in there, so I wrote a short story called The Chapel Perilous for that. So a lot of my inspiration comes from my wide reading in the classics. So yeah, for me, I'm on board with that, but I wouldn't want to generalize and say that that's necessary for everybody.
Right. Does anybody have any questions yet?
Well, I'll get it going, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
I'm going to turn it over to you, man. You do the thing, because I watched your video. You're good at this.
You got one question, sure, but then I usually do questions a little bit later on. I got a couple things.
So really quick, how hard was it to find Luke Daniels?
Oh, I didn't find him.
Yeah?
That was a complete accident, a very happy accident. Brilliance was the audio company that bought the audio rights, and when they buy the rights, you just deal with whoever they get, and it's a shame because and sometimes it really makes a series, as in this case, but sometimes the wrong narrator can kind of kill the audio. But Luke has been just fabulous, and we've collaborated on a couple of things. We have some more plans down the road, and on the tour for state. He lives in Michigan, so I'm actually doing a tour stop in Lansing, and Luke is going to be there with me, doing Oberon, and it's going to be a pretty fun night. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was just an accidental thing, and then I did switch from Brilliance to Random House Audio, and when I did, I made sure that Random House Audio knew you got to keep Luke Daniels. You can't just dish in and get somebody you like, because everybody likes it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump again on your title. So just this question and then...
So I'm like 100 pages into Heir to the Jedi. I'm liking it so far.
Okay.
I was wondering, actually, did the story group approach you, or did they? Okay. And did they kind of have a set story they wanted, or is it kind of a give and take? Like, we want you to do this, but you can also throw this in.
It was entirely because they were actually a fan of the Iron Druid. They were reading Atticus and said, this guy gets in a lot of trouble, and maybe he and he writes kind of fun first person. So why don't we approach Kevin and ask would he like to write Luke Skywalker, because they saw some parallels in the characters. So and then they asked me to write the actual part of the canon that I've always wondered about as a kid, which was how did Luke grow in the Force between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, when at the end of Star Wars it was like, I kind of feel it, and then in the beginning of Empire Strikes Back he's like using telekinesis, summoning the lightsaber to his hand. There was never any explanation for how that happened. How did he grow and learn that when Ben is dead and Yoda, he hasn't met him yet? So they're like, you want to write that story? I'm like, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right, so I'll just talk for a little while about some things and do a little reading for you, and then, any questions you guys have, whether it's, the Star Wars or Iron Druid stuff, we'll do that.
And I'm going to get out of the way so I'm not in his shot for the YouTube video.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Appreciate it. I'm so happy to be here, you guys, because I was supposed to be here last year, and what happened was, when I agreed to do the con last year, I thought that I would already be moved into Denver, and this would be easy. But what happened was the people building my house sucked a little bit and missed their deadlines, and then so they basically told me, your closing is now on that Labor Day weekend, and it was this, or whatever the time was for this, I'm sorry, whatever, it was Labor Day weekend last year, wasn't it? So anyway, basically it conflicted, and I could either help my family move, or I could go off and have fun all by myself and then have them hate me forever. So I had to, with regret, I needed to cancel and say, well, I'll do it next year. So I'm glad to be here now. We are loving Colorado, This is the second time I've been in Salt Lake, period, in the sense that I was invited here a few years ago for a writers' conference. The romance writers invited me up here. Yeah. And I was like, you guys know I don't write romance, right? And they're like, yeah, we want you to talk about other stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it was seriously fabulous. I had the best time. And so I was glad to come back, and I'm really happy to be here. I really did your kind so far. Thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it. So, things I'm up to, I figured out you would want to know. Right now, of course, we're going into book 8, and that's going to be out on January 26th. And I won't have a tour stop here, I'm sorry, but I will, yeah, this is your big chance to see me now. But I'm excited because it's wrapping up a whole bunch of stuff, from plot threads that have been dangling for a while. And we also have, in case you didn't know, there is a novella out right now that fills in the blanks in between book 7 and book 8. It's called A Prelude to War, and I released it in ebook and audio. It's not in print. And you will find that in an anthology called 3 Slices. So if you don't read A Prelude to War, you're going to be a little bit confused when book 8 begins, because they are in completely different, Atticus and Granuaile both are in completely different places from where they were at the end of Shattered. And it's because a whole bunch of stuff happens in that novella. So it's a necessary part of the series, like 2 Ravens and 1 Crow was. A lot of important stuff happens, so wouldn't want you to be confused. If you haven't read it yet, you can search it out, wherever you like to purchase your goodies, and you'll see it there. It's called 3 Slices, and one of the reasons I wanted to do it this way is because I got to do the art the way I wanted to. So there's a painting, the cover is a painting of Atticus plus Oberon, finally, is on the cover. And then there's some interior artwork as well, if you're buying the ebook, of Granuaile and Orla and Loki. So, plus you get novellas by 2 other amazing authors, Chuck Wendig, and who just hit New York Times for Aftermath. He's been there for 3 weeks, he's amazing. And then we also have Delilah S. Dawson in there, and she's a fabulous writer as well. So all of it has their own artwork. So that was something that we wouldn't be able to do if we were doing it with a traditional publisher. So we really wanted to hire this particular artist to do the work for us. And, it's called 3 Slices. It all has to do with telling the future through cheese. This is a real thing. It's a word called teromancy. Okay, and apparently what you do is you look for patterns of the future in the coagulation of cheese. Not like finished cheese, not like, well, I'm gonna take my piece of little cheddar here and tell the future. It's actually in the process of making it that the future or the seerage happens. So that is in every, teromancy is mentioned basically in every story, and it's kind of the theme of them all. But we're all writing from novellas from our series. So you get Chuck Wendig's Miriam Black, and then you get Delilah's Blood stuff, and then an Iron Druid thing for me. So hope you guys dig it. I had a lot of fun writing it. Also with novellas, I like to, because they're not the big novels, I get to have more fun with Oberon in those, because they're smaller works, and I kind of let him, I just have, there's more Oberon in the shorter works than there is in the longer works, because my editor says, no, that's too much, and such, So, yeah. I know. But anyway, so Staked will be out in January, and then in the meantime, what I'm writing right now is not book 9. I'm writing an epic fantasy. I've had this in the works for a while, and it is a trilogy called the Seven Kennings Trilogy. But the first book is called A Plague of Giants, and that's what I'm working on right now. I've also, it's more than halfway done. And I sent the first half to my editor, and it is, the first half of this book is as long as my longest Iron Druid book, which is Shattered. So, and that's, so epics are truly epic. Yeah, I mean, they're dang long, and it's taken a while, but I'm hoping to have that finished by the end of this year, and then that would mean, hopefully, that it would be published by the end of next year, because they have a very long about 10 to 12 months to get a book out on the shelves, usually, is how traditional publishing kind of works. Because there's so many steps along the way to get you that pristine, lovely little copy there. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I'm excited about that. I do have a couple of other things coming out. I have a short story is in an anthology that's coming out in December from Subterranean Press, and it's called the anthology is called Fantasy Medley 3, and it's available right now from Subterranean directly if you wanted to pre-order it. It has me, Jacqueline Carey, Aliette Bodard, and Laura Bickle. So it's 4 short stories in there. My short story is called Goddess at the Crossroads. And just like the Chapel Perilous, where you had Atticus telling a story of his past to Oberon and Granuel around the campfire, Goddess at the Crossroads is a similar structure. Atticus tells them a little bit about the time he met William Shakespeare. So yeah, I got my William Shakespeare geek on and had a great time writing that. And the editor for that one was kind of a Shakespeare scholar herself. She's like, oh, you got it all right. So I did my research while there. It was a lot of fun figuring out where Shakespeare would have lived at a particular time and so on and so forth. Luckily, he's one of the most studied authors ever, and so we know quite a bit about his life and where he was living and what he was doing at certain times. So I had a lot of fun tying the Iron Druid into his actual life and his inspiration for the Scottish play. So that was a good time. So I hope you guys enjoy that when that comes out. That'll be in December again from Subterranean Press, and you can pick it up now if you'd like to. So. Or pick up the pre-order, I should say. All right, so you guys want to hear something from State? Okay. I gotta tell you, I've had so much fun writing Owen. His chapters are, at this point, not only the easiest but the most amusing for me personally to write. He's so ornery. It reminds me of not just my dad, but some other, friends of his from when I was growing up. They're really kind of, they have this outside exterior of being kind of cantankerous and so on, but they have a really gooey center. They're gentle people with the people that they love, and Owen's kind of like that, and I really enjoy his outside bluster quite a bit. So. This is his first chapter of the book. The first 3 chapters are between Atticus and Granuel, but he appears first in chapter 4, and I'm not reading you the whole thing, just a couple of chapters, so you can kind of see where he's at right now. So here we go. Owen, the Arch Druid. Forgive my terrible accent when I try to do him. Few things chappy tits that are worse than big cities. Smelly things polluted by cars and the horizon choked with big rectangular signs telling people to buy newer cars. I says to Greta, I love it when you kick me arse, but this city is doing it in a way I can't fight back. This Paradise Valley of yours is no paradise to me, love. I simply can't live here in this fecking wasteland of concrete and cactus. I need me trees. And God's bless her, she says she'll move to the country with me. Sort of. How would Flagstaff be, she says. We'll live on the San Francisco peaks with all those pines and aspens, and we can go into town when necessary. That sounds dodgy to me. When would it ever be necessary, I asked her. Well, we have to get food once in a while. Why go to the city for that? We can hunt and grow our own, get some sheep and goats and chickens. All right, Owen, if you want to do that, I suppose it's possible. It's more than possible, it's the only way to live. She smiles at me and I feel hope again. Then I'll transfer myself over to the Flagstaff Pass, she says. It's far past time for me to pick up and move on, and Sam and Ty are good guys. Aye, good sparring partners, I says. The leaders of the Flagstaff Pack are younger wolves than Hal Hawk and much of his crew in Tempe, but they're a happy couple, share their beer, and don't mind going a few rounds with the bear every so often. Truth be told, I'd rather go back to Ireland, but I can't ask Greta to do that. She needs a pack to run with when the moon is full, and I'm not sure they have one over there. A lot of business with something called a realtor happens after that. They have people these days who do nothing but sell houses, and they aren't even the ones who built them. Makes no fucking sense. Here, says I to Greta, here's this field full of prairie dogs I found, and it has a shack to shite in. I will sell it to you for stupid money. Is that how this realtor thing works?
Yeah, pretty much.
More or less, except it's the owner of the shack who puts it up for sale, not the realtor. Well, then why do you need the realtor person? Lots of legal reasons, and it prevents the buyer and the seller from getting into fights. Oh, well, I can understand that then. I bought some bad venison once from a man who lived in a bog, and I wanted to pound the piss out of him. Should have had a realtor do it for me. That would have been. No, Owen, that's not what realtors do. Well, they fucking should. There's all manner of men living in bogs who need a good thrashing, and I bet there's people who would pay. Could be a full-time job. Maybe it should be my job. Sheehan says I'm supposed to have one. Greta gives up trying to explain realtors after that, and I stop asking and just let her handle the modern horror of it all. And that's where it's at. So basically, yeah, my editor keeps writing notes. When I get my notes back, I always have things to fix on the Atticus and Gromwell chapters. And in the Owen chapter, she's like, these are great. I love every one of these. These are fabulous. So I don't know why he's so easy for me to do. I'm having a great time with him. So I'm glad you guys like him as well. He was somebody that I didn't originally think would be a major character. But once I started playing around with him, I realized, yes, he's got a lot to his story, and we need to let him have his own narrative chapters. So, anyway, that's basically what I wanted to go with you guys, and then leave you time to ask whatever questions you might have, with the fair warning that sometimes I give very thorough answers sometimes. So, if you guys have questions, I would love to hear from you, because I want to make sure that you are happy campers and you go away from this with whatever it was you wanted to get out of it. So please feel free, come on up and ask away. Yeah.
When you started the Iron Druid series, did you envision 9, 10 books in the series, or did you write the first one and then it exploded on you?
It was kind of the second one a little bit. What I did was I wrote the first book, and then I had an outline for the second, and then the third book was literally one sentence: they go to Asgard. So that was how we presented it to the publisher, and on the strength of Hounded plus an outline and one sentence, they bought all three.
Nice.
So, but what happened after that was I did want to write more, and I had a proposal for the fourth book. But they needed to see if the sales were going to happen or not. So they didn't buy it right away. They had to wait to see for the sales figures to come in. And then once it came in, and then once Tricked actually hit New York Times, and they're like, okay, yeah, you can just write whatever you want forever. So. But that, seriously, because of you guys buying the books, thank you, I get to write more. And that's the same for any author. If you want more books by a certain author, just buy their books and tell your friends, and then you'll get more. But originally, I wasn't sure whether it would be 9 or not. But very early on in the process, I was aiming for 7. But then I realized that 9 would be a much better number, not just for, not just for the fact that I get to write 2 more books, but because in Celtic mythology, 9 is a really big deal. And if your narrator is somebody who's from that culture, he would almost have to make his story in 9 installments. So that's why we're at 9, and we're not going any further. Because the Atticus is the narrator, and he is kind of in charge of that, and he would never go beyond 9 as a character, So, yes?
I was just wondering if you have been approached for television or movies yet.
A couple times, yeah. These are, you get people coming around and saying, hey, we love, Hollywood guys, right?
Yeah.
We love this, it's the best thing ever, it's going to be huge, and then you never hear from them again. So I don't believe anything and I won't believe anything until they actually start talking money and here's the contract. And even then, it can wind up being nothing at all. Until it actually is on the air, just don't believe it's going to happen, So, people ask me a lot, is it going to happen? I'm like, I don't know, it's not up to me. I don't have the ability or the contacts or anything like that to finance, any of that kind of stuff. I can't make that happen. So the rights have to be bought by somebody, and until somebody is seriously willing to go there, it's not going to happen. I'm not holding my breath. Oh, but I have one thing I can tell you. I forgot this. It's not a for sure thing yet, but we're in talks right now to develop Iron Druid series as a comic.
That was my other question.
Yeah. A comic / graphic novel. So yes, that's going to happen.
That was my other question.
Yeah, the Daily Brothers, they've done Jim Butcher stuff, and they've done Patricia Briggs and so on. They're going to have that founded, and then I'm also going to write an original story for them as well to do. So that's coming down the road, sometime next year. Right now we're still doing all that contract language thing. My agent is doing his thing. So I haven't signed it yet, so maybe it won't happen, until I sign it, right?
Yeah.
But it is in development, and they're excited about it, and I'm excited about it because believe it or not, this actually started as a webcomic. I always intended it to be a comic, and then it didn't work out because DC was involved in this, and they were going to own the characters. And I was like, screw you guys, my characters. So I wanted to hold on to Atticus and Oberon and have creative control over those, and then write my own books. And then I actually said at the time, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to make this a popular series, and then you guys will have to adapt it. And that's how it'll be comics. And I will still own the characters, and here we are. So,
Yes. So glad you did.
Yeah. I wouldn't want somebody else messing around with them, honestly. So, there you have it. Thank you, sir, for waiting.
Oh, of course. A few weeks ago, unfortunately, I missed it. You actually partnered with Fiction Brewing in Denver, Colorado about launching a beer, and I missed the entire tapping party. So I wanted to ask you kind of like how you got with Fiction Brewing and a little more about that.
Oh, all the credit goes to the Denver Public Library.
All of it?
Yeah, they're the ones who hooked us up. They were doing this promotion for the month of September called Brew Ha Ha. And so they were working not just with brewers, but with coffee roasters and with tea shops and things like that. So they were having little events at all these places where, to one extent or another, they are brewing something, and then they were pairing it with books. And so, Fiction Beer Company is it's owned by Ryan Kilpatrick and his wife, and his wife is an English major, and she is putting the best use ever to an English major I've ever heard of by just naming the beers and writing the menus for them, because they're all inspired by fiction. So they have a honey wheat common ale that's called A Beer of Very Little Brain, for Winnie the Pooh. And then they have some stuff inspired by Kafka and so on and so forth. So when they came to me and said, would you like a beer based on Hamlet? I'm like, yeah! So it was fantastic. I was kind of worried because the guy's like, well, we're going to do, what kind of beers do you like? And I said, well, cream ales are pretty good, He's like, okay, we're going to do a caraway pear cream ale. I'm like, what? So I didn't know if it was going to be good or not, But I went down and brewed it with them, and then it came out, and it was seriously dangerous because it was so drinkable. You could drink a lot before you realized how destroyed you'd be.
I purchased 2 growlers of it because it was too good.
You did get a chance
I got in 10 minutes to close. I walked in, I was like, I need 2 growlers of this, please, and I drank them all the next day.
It's so good. Yeah, it's seriously a great place. So if you guys ever get a chance to go to Denver and see it, Fiction Beer Company, they have a bar made of books. And everything there is literary related. You guys would dig it. If you're a book lover, that is the place to get your beer. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Tori. Hi, I'm your Twitter friend, Ali Golightly.
Hello.
Hey. So I met Trisha Narwani.
Yeah.
That's how I found out about you.
Okay.
She said you're one of her top 3 that she reps. And so I wondered, what was it like, the process of finding an editor, and what it's like working with her?
Oh, okay. The deal was my agent sends out the manuscript to the different publishers, and he sent it out to 9, all at the same time, and this was in 2009. So in September, so it's pretty much the anniversary here of me getting a deal, because it was right at the end of September when I got the deal. So yeah, here we are 6 years later. But what he did is he sent it out to 9 publishers, and 4 of them came back and bid on it, basically. So I had my choice between Del Rey and Dawn, a company that is no longer around, EOS or whatever it's called, and Orbit. And I went with Del Rey because Trisha had a really good plan there for marketing and stuff, and she was excited about it. And so I chose Del Rey, and Trisha's been a dream to work with. I think every writer has their blind spots, and so she's really good at pointing out stuff I need to fix, and I trust her judgment when something needs to be cut, and then she also trusts my judgment if I push back and say, actually that really needs to be there because I'm going to be doing something with it later on. So there's a lot of give and take and trust going on with your editor, and I have a great relationship with her, and I always look forward to her notes. And she likes the fact that when she gives me notes, I address everything, and yeah, it's a completely different book then. So what I wound up doing is, when I first started out, I had to do several different versions of the books to get them in shape. Like Hounded required 5 different drafts. Because that was my first one, I had a lot to learn. And then the others got progressively better, but now I do just one extra, I'll hand it in, she gives me her notes, I revise, we're done. So I've gotten a lot better at the revision process because I know what she likes and what works now a lot better than I used to when I was a new author. So, but anyway, that's how I did it. My agents are much faster than trying to do it on your own, let me tell you, because if you're doing it on your own, you can't submit to 9 publishers and have them get back to you in 2 weeks. Because that's what happened. It was literally 2 weeks I was at bid. I was like, oh my God, that's so fast. So, but that's the power of what an agent does. They know every single editor. They can pick up the phone and say, I'm sending you something awesome right now. Okay, I can't wait. And so, boom, it happens. So, yeah, that's the story.
And then a little bit more, how did you find your agent?
The agent was a longer process, actually, than selling the book was. Finding an agent is definitely tough for a lot of folks, and I had 23 agents tell me no. And the one who said yes wound up, selling my book for me. But you got to realize that a lot of agencies, they're actually, the people reading your book when you submit it are interns. And Hounded was picked up by an intern at my agency and given to an agent saying, this one is actually good, because they get, a lot of submissions that are maybe not so good. And so they don't want to read them all, so they have these interns do it, because what they're thinking is, look, if you can't hook a 20-something, college kid, you're not going to hook anybody else either. So, that's kind of the way they're operating, a lot of them. So anyway, she handed my book to, the agent. He read it and offered to represent me, but that was after, again, 23 other rejections. So I used agentquery.com. It's a pretty neat little site that allows you to sort agents by the genre that they represent, and it generated a big list for me of people that represent fantasy, and I just kind of went down and sent little chunks, of queries at a time until somebody said yes. So, but I would adjust in between. If I got a whole bunch of rejections, then I'm like, well, my query letter is bad, so I would adjust my query letter. And then when I would get partial and full manuscript requests, but they were saying no, then that meant something was wrong with my book, So there are things that you can do to try to adjust, but instead of sending out queries to everybody all at once, you break it up and learn as you go. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Hi.
Hi.
I like your hat.
Thank you. So what was the thought process to give Granule her own point of view? Because I have to be honest, I'm not a fan of her point of view. So I just wondered what was the thought process
Well,
to that.
the secret is that the actual hero of the series is Granuel, because she's us. She is the person who grows up in this modern world and then gets introduced to magical powers. So I find her particular points of view or her story fascinating because she's dealing with the kinds of problems that a lot of us would need to deal with. How are you going to deal with the fact that you would probably need to leave your family to pick up this life? How would you deal with, unlimited power? Would it corrupt you? That kind of thing. So she's dealing with a lot of that stuff, and so that's why she's interesting to me. Yeah. Thanks. Hi.
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, what are you currently reading?
Currently, I'm reading Star Wars Aftermath by Chuck Wendig, but I also just finished The Traitor Beru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. It's a debut novel, and it's just stunning, just really, really well done. So I highly recommend that one. And of course, the Aftermath book is a lot of fun too. I love Chuck's work. He's one of my favorite authors. And then I'm also reading Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. And what I love about it is how different it is from most alien. It's a thing where aliens come to Earth. But instead of the very old and boring, take me to your leader and let's, the aliens come down to Washington, D.C. Like, why would they choose that, They land in a lagoon outside of Lagos, Nigeria, And so the choice to do that is interesting in itself. And Nigeria as a culture is, she's portraying it in a very interesting way. So I've been reading it for about a month. I just read little bits of it, and then I think about it in between, because I really enjoy what she's doing and what she's building there, because she keeps changing points of view. At one point, she has the point of view of a bat that mutates in response to the aliens and stuff like that. And it was just this beautiful three-page chapter, and it's gorgeous. And so I love what she's doing there, and I'm really savoring it. So I recommend that one too.
Please.
Yeah, you bet.
Hi there. Question from my daughter.
Okay.
Who's brave enough to come up here, but not quite enough to ask it herself.
It's all good.
So she's already writing.
Yeah.
She's working on some stuff of her own. And the question she had is, when you're writing, do you have the story, including the ending, already in mind when you start, or does it change as you write?
Depends on the book. For Hounded, I was making it up as I went along. And so that meant that that's probably one of the reasons I had so many editing issues with that particular book compared to the later ones. After Hounded, though, see, I had a contract, and I had deadlines to meet, so I couldn't just make it up as I went along anymore. I needed to hit those deadlines. So to do that, I write outlines for myself, little chapter outlines, and then I don't feel obliged to follow them, however. If I come up with a better idea in the process, I do that. Like the whole Hammers of God thing, that was me just goofing around one day. Like seriously, like a bad joke. A priest and a rabbi walk into a pagan bookstore. And I'm like, well, let's do that, and let's have fun with it. And then, what if they're creepy? I'm like, okay, this is fun, let's keep going. And so that was something that was never in the outline, but I developed it because it was fun and it was a better idea than what I had for the outline. So outlines, the wonderful thing about them is that they keep you on task, and you've got so you're not just staring at a page and saying, what do I write today? I've got a plan of what to write, because here we go. And if I'm not feeling this chapter right here, well then I can skip ahead to chapter 20 or something like that and write that, because that sounds like more fun right now. So you just take the path of least resistance until you get done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I typically listen to audiobooks, and I was wondering how you found Luke Daniels.
Oh, that was a complete accident. Yeah, Brilliance Audio hired him, and I didn't have anything to do with it. So I just got lucky. But once I got Luke Daniels, and I switched audio companies from Brilliance to Random House Audio, I made sure that Random House Audio was going to keep Luke Daniels.
He does an excellent Oberon.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Hi.
Hello. You mentioned that you were teaching while you were publishing your novels.
Yeah.
How did your students react? Did they like the novels? Did they even read them?
A few of them did. I never really, they're kind of a captive audience, and so I wasn't going to use that to say, hey, read my books, kids. I never really said much about it. Like, it was kind of a thing where it's not a secret.
Yeah.
I publish a book, but I'm also not going to talk about it because we need to, get you prepared for this week's vocabulary test. Or what, you know what I mean? So there was, they were aware if they wanted to be aware, they could find out, but I wasn't going to, ever really promote myself there. Now, however, the school that I used to teach at, they've got multiple copies of the series and they get checked out a lot and that kind of a thing. Yeah. A few of them, I think I only had like 2 kids come up to me while I was teaching there. And that was, 4 books were out, but only 2 kids came up to me and said, dude. And they would look around to make sure nobody would see. I like your book. And then they run away. Because they didn't want to be seen actually liking something a teacher did. So, but that was very fun. Yeah, you bet. Anybody else with questions?
How did you come up with Oberon?
Oh, this fellow's coming up to the microphone.
Sorry?
This is kind of a follow-up on a teaching question.
Sure.
When you were teaching, what was your favorite thing to teach, and why was it Hamlet?
Why was it Hamlet? I did like Hamlet, but I didn't get to teach that very often. I used to love teaching The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot because I would really break it down and explain to them how everything there is basically an illusion or a symbol for something else, and how you can pack so much meaning into words that way. So that was one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, thanks.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for Oberon. He's good for the soul.
Okay, thanks.
He's the main reason me and my wife read the books. Are we going to see more druids?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm excited.
Yeah, go ahead.
How did you come up with Oberon?
Yeah, so how did you come up with Oberon? This is actually kind of going along with what he was saying. Oberon was intended as somebody who would keep Atticus grounded in the present. When I started, I had no idea how popular he would be. None. Because he was, if you think about it from a writing perspective, Oberon is a flat character. He's not something I plan. He's never in any of my outlines. He's never something, I don't plan him ahead of time. It's just me being a smart ass while I'm writing. But the thing about dogs are that they live in the present. If you were mad at them 5 minutes ago, they've forgotten. And if, they're always happy to see you, always living in the now. And for somebody who's as old as Atticus was, I felt that he needed somebody to ground him in the present. Since he could otherwise get lost in his past and dwell on that, and become old and cold like vampires, right? So that is the purpose of Oberon and why he wants a companion that is like, living in the present like an animal would. So that was the point, and then it just became very popular because of his, various obsessions with sausage and
I think my favorite scene is when he rewards him with the poodles. Like,
yeah.
Poodles!
Yeah, the poodle thing, yeah. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Yes?
Shaking, I was wondering.
Oh, don't worry.
I want to thank you in advance for the glossaries at the beginning of your books.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like I know things. I picked up Hounded on a whim, and I liked the cover. And
yeah, that guy is like unfairly pretty.
Single girls, we're like,
yeah.
hey, hot redhead,
right.
read this book. What is your method for your research? I mean, it's so deep and it's intelligent.
Well, thank you. The research thing, a lot of it, again, was off the top of my head from years and years of just teaching and reading and absorbing stuff. But for specific things, yes, I do have a research process. And believe it or not, it starts with Wikipedia and then quickly moves from there. What I use Wikipedia for is the bibliography at the bottom where they have linked their sources. They're very good about that now. They didn't used to be. But now it's a requirement. If you're going to put up an article, you need to have original sources for this thing here. So what I would do is I would, you know, if you go to the Tour de Dan ones, then there are sources down there at the bottom of those Wikipedia articles that will link you to Irish university websites where they have translated the original works into English from the Old Irish. So I was reading the original myths from, you know, universities in Trinity College in Dublin, basically. So that's where I got a lot of my stuff. Wherever I could, I would go to the original source, and yeah, it's been translated to English, but, you know, anything that old is going to be translated into English. So the same thing with the Norse stuff. You can find the poetic and the prose Eddas entirely online. There are a couple of different translations by different, you know, dudes. But yeah, you get a lot of stuff from them, and that's where I was kind of basing everything on, is always, wherever I can, going to source material. For the stuff for Tricked, for example, you know, that's Native American stuff. So I was relying heavily on the book that I gave credit to in the acknowledgments that was basically a recording, or somebody had written down the recording of a Navajo holy man who was telling the creation story. And so I was using that and then also comparing it with what does the Navajo Community College speak or teach regarding their creation story, and whether there are 4 or 5 levels of emergence. And then I also had a Navajo student, and she was telling me some things, and then she also let me talk to her parents about that stuff as well. And then I went to the Navajo Nation and did a lot of the location scouting as well. On the cover of Tricks, by the way, I'm very proud of this, even though it's something I'm not even to be proud of. But there's, I took a picture of the Sandstone Mountains where this is set, where that book is set, and I sent it to my publisher so that they could then send it to the artist for inspiration. He put it on the cover. It's a silhouette in the background behind a stupid quote saying, "It's like June Butcher." So there's all of that pictures on the cover, and I was like, I contributed. It's so awesome. But it's just, yeah, you will just see the shape of it. In the book, it's described like they're like shark fins. And that's what they look like. Seriously, these really interesting formations of sandstone on the Navajo Nation.
I'm gonna go home and look again.
Yeah, it's just, he just used it in the background of the picture, but I was so excited that he actually used what I sent him that I got really geeked out about it. So, there you go.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We all set? We're done? Oh, 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes, you guys. If you want to ask anything else. Yes?
So you said Atticus' story ends at 9.
Yeah.
Are there any other stories that can start over in the universe?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can, already I've written some books that were basically, or novellas, I should say, or short stories, where Atticus is telling about his, very long past. I think those are a lot of fun, because those are like research, exercises for me, a lot of fun. So I can continue to write those shorter works. In terms of, other full novels, yeah, I could do spin-offs. There are lots of things I could do. I'm really interested right now after book 8. I'm really interested in the Polish Covenant and what they're going to be up to and what they do, when Atticus is not around, getting involved in whatever. So that's one of the potential possibilities, but there's a lot of them. I mean, heck, there's Owen, there's all kinds of stuff I can do. So I'm hoping one of those will speak to me, but yeah, since at this point I haven't even written the final book yet, and also I have the epic fantasy trilogy to do, I haven't really thought too much about what I exactly am going to do. So,
as long as you keep writing.
Yeah, I want to keep doing that for sure. So, after this, you guys, I am going to be at the Shadow Mountain booth at which I believe is 1401. And they've got all my books there if you want to buy one. Of course, if you brought your own, I'm turbo happy to sign those too. And I want to thank you so much for reading and for coming to see me here. And I hope to see you around some more. I've got some panels. One panel tomorrow, and then another signing at the Padali booth, and then where they have Atticus's jewelry and stuff. And then I also have 2 panels on Saturday. So. I hope to see you at one of those if I don't get to see you at Shadow Mountain here in a few.